Part 2.
All right, let's get into the Patreon pick. Again, this was specifically James's pick that is going to represent the Patreon subscribers. He picked The Video Dead from 1987. Steve, I assume a movie you've seen before. I feel like everyone's probably seen The Video Dead.
Yeah.
Thoughts going into it? Like, was this a movie you were like, this is great, or like, or it has been a while? Like, what was your thoughts going into this one?
Well, it's definitely been a while since I've actually seen it. But yeah, it's one of those films that like it just kind of pops up, especially, it's on VHS. We had that. We were part of that dead generation of people who could just walk into a video store and you see a crazy cover. And so you just pick up a fucking movie off a crazy cover. It's sandwiched in between 13 witchcraft movies. And you go, my mom's not going to let me take the one with the horny ladies on it. Maybe I'll take the one with the zombies on it.
Damn it. Mom hates horny ladies. Pisses me off.
Yeah.
This was definitely a video store one. I don't know that I ever rented it as a kid. But I definitely saw it on the shelves. Right. It is directed, I think written and directed by Robert Scott, which is has an interesting career. Only 2 directorial credits, but a lot of AD credits.
Yeah,
the second unit or AD credits, but a lot of them, right, on some pretty big projects. Probably most notably, at least a movie that I loved as a kid, is Dracula Dead and Loving It.
Yeah. I still love today because Peter McNichol's fucking performance as Renfield is maybe the best, if not the second best Renfield that I've seen so far.
He's fantastic. And like anything Leslie Nielsen, I'm gonna love, but especially his like silly comedic how to put it, like parody type of roles like he did. Obviously starting with Airplane. I've seen Airplane 1,000 times, all the Naked Gun movies. These are all such, he's just so fucking, he's such a great straight man. To all these just bonkers ass gags, right? Getting into the cast a little bit, again, and when you see low budget, micro budget especially, that usually is an indicator that there's not going to be a ton of recognizable folks in here. I cannot help but love the name Michael St. Michael's. That is such a weirdly I don't know, British thing to do. I don't know. Is he British?
He is not.
No, he's born
from
in
New York.
Poughkeepsie, New York. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's from New York.
Yeah, but such a wildly bold decision for a parent with the last, and maybe, who knows, maybe he wasn't born with the last name St. Michael's, but Michael St. Michael's. I love a James St. James, right? I love a John Johnson. Right. I grew up with a John Johnson. And I always thought like, that's like, they sat down, the parents had a discussion about this and decided, yep, that's a good decision. We're going to run with it.
There's a filmmaker, and he kind of sucks nowadays because he's just doesn't even do film. He's just an obnoxious podcaster. Well, that's not us, but we're not obnoxious.
Yeah.
But
yeah, certainly not.
Yeah, but he made films like Pool Boy Drowning Out the Fury, and he plays a character and he made FDR American Badass. But in those films, he plays a character called St. James Street James.
Oh yeah,
so
we watched one of those movies.
Yeah. So it's the first one is St. James, but then it's Street James. So it's like Michael St. Michael's, but no, Michael Street Michael's would be.
What was the movie we watched that he did? We watched one of his movies, and I can't remember what it was.
Helen Keller versus the Night Wolves is the one.
Helen Keller versus the Night Wolves. That was it. Yeah, which was funny. And interestingly enough, whenever I bring up on my Google, I bring up my Google, my homepage, and I just click the like most. This happened at some point. The most visited link for IMDb to bring up my IMDb. It is the page for Helen Keller versus Nightwolves. IMDb, not just IMDb.com. Couple of characters we should call out here that are big, right? So we have Jeff and he calls her Zoe. I think that's just what he calls her. I believe it's Zoe. Jeff and Zoe Blair, played by Rocky Duvall, which sounds like a made-up 80s character name, and Roxana Augustin. They play the brother and sister who are, basically more than latchkey kids. Their parents literally are in, I think they say Saudi Arabia or something, and just leave them to fend for themselves, just neglect them 100%.
Pretty much. Yeah.
You also get Cowboy Joshua Daniels, played by Sam David McClellan. Kind of an interesting, a fun performance, to be honest with you. And then Victoria Bastel plays April, which is a bizarre character and also a terrible performance. just out and out awful.
Just awful.
She is bad at acting.
And her acting is all in Frankie Frico. Just the way she acts, it's all in Frankie Frico. The way Rocky Duvall looks, Rocky Duvall looks exactly like Connor, the lead in Frankie Frico. It's just
really?
They look exactly the same. They're just white kids with blonde hair that's kind of spiked up, but it's not fully product out. It just, I don't know what it is. It's so fucking they both have the brush head. I don't get it.
Yeah, there was a specific type of kid who existed back then, which I'm sure they exist now, but in my mind, obviously, because I grew up in this era, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a specific type of kid whose hair just stood up like that. And they were always skinny little dirty blonde rat-faced kids, and they were everywhere in the in the late 80s, early 90s. And I'm sure they're here now, and I just don't pay attention. But yes, little rat-faced kids with spiky hair were everywhere back then.
We don't know where they're at. Maybe they just lost their hair, and that's why we can't find them anymore. They're adults now, so they lost their hair. And then
no, but I mean, where are the little rat-faced kids? They're somewhere. You know what I mean? There's got to be this generation's little spiky rat-haired kids, but I'm not looking hard enough, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe they're younger because they would be the kids of the rat-faced kids that we went to school with. So now those kids would be younger than your kids, maybe. So you haven't seen them yet, but they're out there. That's
true. They're out there. I'm going to start looking for them now. I'm going to start seeing them everywhere. Anyway, they're at their house, and they obviously, like I said, no one's there. It's just them. They've moved into a new house. They just show up and go well, we live here now. Their parents bought a new house and just made them essentially manage the moving in of the home, despite the fact that I don't know, did they buy it from Saudi Arabia? We're not really sure, but they're on their way back, and they're just fending for themselves. A creepy wooden box is actually delivered. This is before they move in, but this is the house they're ultimately going to move into. A creepy wooden box is delivered, and for some reason, the Highlight delivery service makes their people wear full-on prison-issued jumpsuits to deliver packages, little orange jumpsuits, like an escaped inmate would wear. And we've got this guy, Mr. Jordan, and he's a real degen. He's on the Sam from Habit path here. He seems to just be kind of maybe partying it out too hard or something. His goldfish is dead. He just kind of lives on delivery pizza and just living that degen life here. He gets the delivery. He doesn't know what it is. He didn't order it. It's an old ass TV, with the screen kind of covered up. So Mr. Jordan's boozing, the TV just keeps randomly turning on, and you keep seeing Zombie Blood Nightmare, which is an old black and white looking zombie movie on it with some pretty cool looking, creepy zombies. And it won't stay off. He has to eventually unplug it. It then turns on while he's sleeping. And then we get this whole like zombie breaking the fourth wall thing where it like starts shooting, and then like lightning bolts start shooting and out of the TV, and eventually zombies start emerging. So this is a very, like, within the first 10 minutes of the movie, we get that very iconic image of the zombie's head coming up out of the TV that's laying with the screen facing up, that we've seen 100 times. And I think 90% of people who know this movie well are immediately going to think of that scene, that image, in pertains to the video Dead. So now a bunch of zombies shuffle out and into Mr. Jordan's living room. The highlight delivery, folks show back up in a couple days, and they're like, they fucked up. They made a mistake. They were, of course, supposed to deliver that TV to the Institute of the Studies of the Occult, but accidentally delivered it to Mr. Jordan's suburban home.
Instead, they delivered it to this degen who is like a writing shut-in.
Yeah.
The way I took this was that he wasn't paying to live there, that Zoe and the other kid, their parents were renting this home to this writer. And
okay.
They're like, here, this is your like hideaway writing spot. But then they show up and like, my parents, they've never been to this home either. So it's just like, they have it. They're just like, this is ours, and we donated it to this writer so he can be creative and kill his goldfish and get too drunk and fucking jack off too much. And then when they bring the TV to him at first, he's like, TV? I don't watch TV. And it's like, what are you, homeschooled? What is this?
Who doesn't watch TV?
Yeah.
Especially, So he's a weird character. He doesn't live long, so we don't really learn a whole lot about him. But yeah, they could just be slumlords, kind of, who just like, hey, just go crash here. We're not gonna keep it up, but also don't ever call us, kind of thing.
Yeah, don't talk to us. We never mentioned. We haven't mentioned like who Michael St. Michael's goes on to be.
What did I miss?
Oh, perhaps his next most famous role is Big Ronnie in The Greasy Strangler.
I knew I recognized him, his face, his weird froggy face. I didn't go down through too much because he doesn't play like a huge role in this movie, obviously, but he is, of course, he is the Greasy Strangler himself.
Yeah.
The titular Greasy Strangler. Which is a favorite of mine. I've suggested that movie to way too many people, and lost friendships as a result.
Sure, it's the most Tim and Eric movie that isn't Tim and Eric at all.
It really is. Yeah, that's a great point. It really is. Anyway, the highlight delivery service folks open the door, and they find Mr. Jordan's corpse. He's just ready to party for some reason. I'm not sure why they like dressed him up like he was going to a party or something. Doesn't he have like a party hat or something on? It's weird.
Yeah, he has a party hat on. I don't know why they did that to him, because they don't do anything similar later.
Yeah, we're not sure. We're not sure why. Cut to 3 months later, and someone's bought the house. And by the way, guys, this movie's peaked. Like, we just saw the peak of the movie, unfortunately. That scene, and that's my only issue with this. There are some fun scenes later on, but like, this is one of those movies that is really known for a couple of scenes and a couple of performances, and the weirdness of the zombies, I think. And I forgot to write down, but like, people this has, obviously quite a cult following. And the people who are big fans of this movie have names for the various zombies, because you see the same zombies over and over again, and they're very distinct looking. There's a bride. There's a guy who looks like fucking Billy Idol or something. He looks like a redheaded Billy Idol, and he's blue. Yeah. And I forgot to write down what the names that they give the zombies are, because they obviously don't call them that like in the credits. But it's there is a very loyal following for this movie. And a lot of it comes from the personality of the zombies. That's one thing I will say that this movie has, is the zombies have a tremendous amount of personality as compared to almost any other zombie movie I can think of, with the exception of something like maybe Shaun of the Dead or something like that. But we mentioned Zoe shows up in a cab, and she, we get the story of, hey, they're moving in, what's going on with the parents, all that stuff. She's unpacking. Someone's lurking outside. It's fucking Jeff, man. He's out there. He was lurking. I want to know where they were before this, like, because they don't seem like they were like together. Like Zoe was like off at school or something. They're brother and sister, and they're now moving into this house with their parents. Zoe, you get the feeling she was off at like school or something. I don't remember if they explicitly say that, but Jeff, I think, was just living like a 13-year-old hermit in the woods or something. I'm not really sure. With all
Jeff
his,
has been summoned from the woods.
Yeah, with all of his fucking punk rock posters and stuff.
Yeah. Maybe he was exiled and his parents sent a raven to let him know that he could move back into a house.
Yeah, you can come indoors now, Jeff. He was just like a gutter punk before this. But again, has a lot of posters. They have what I think it appears to be eating beanie weenies, which is a big favorite of mine.
Sure.
But they make reference to the old family recipe later on, and it appears to just be beanie weenies, which for those of you who are uninitiated is baked beans with chopped up hot dogs in it. So Zoe, she's definitely in college, because they have this conversation about what she's going to college for. And Zoe explains that she's going to college for aerobics and music videos. Major in aerobics, minor in music videos. And Jeff's being real judgy with her. And I was like, what the fuck are you going to, what are you going to major in, Jeff? Like, you're aspiring to study throwing rocks at trains? Like, what the fuck? Who are you to judge her, you little fucking rat-faced dirtball? But another pair of feet approach, and at this point, it's Mr. Daniels. Old Cowboy Daniels shows up. They don't explain, besides the fact that he drove from Texas, why he happens to be a cowboy type, but he's looking for the box and the TV that was mistakenly delivered. And Jeff refers to him as some totally gnarly dude, which is a pretty accurate representation of Cowboy Daniels. Yeah,
great. Like, I don't know. Gnarly is one of those words that like meant both good and bad back in the day. So it like, it doesn't matter. He just shows up and he's just, my name's Joshua Daniels and I have the tallest hat in the county. Now, do you have my box?
Yeah, we had a phrase back in our Carney days, me and my brother, my cousin, our Carney friends, which was our equivalent of gnarly, which was sick as fuck. So like somebody could, like, if somebody was bad at something, like we had this guy named Jim Pratt, and we only called him Jim Pratt. Jim Pratt's dead, by the way. Carnies don't have a long life expectancy, but Jim Pratt had a jean jacket that was awesome. And we used to say Jim Pratt's jean jacket is sick as fuck. But then Jim Pratt would get drunk and he was bad at backing up trailers because he was drunk. So we would say Jim Pratt's like ability to back up trailers was also sick as fuck. So it could be good or bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
the jean jacket's sick as fuck, but like, oh, don't let Jim back up the trailer. It's sick. It's gonna be sick as fuck.
It's all contextual.
Yeah. So the TV is trying to fuck Jeff in the attic. And you're like, well, what's that all about? He ends up bringing it to his room so he can, obviously pork the TV in privacy. There's this kind of sexy alt babe, April, that shows up, and her and Jeff kind of have some weird conversation. The dialogue is really terrible because Jeff is very bad at acting, but April is even worse. So those two on screen together are like diarrhea. It's unbelievably bad.
Terrible. April's like first couple lines. In her first couple lines, she's like, "Hey, my name's April. Don't you hate it? It's like the fabric softener." And like, she just runs. She runs 3 lines together into one line, and it's just like, there's supposed to be a joke in there about her name sounding like April Fresh fabric softener, which is a reference nobody gets anymore. But like, she doesn't even give it time to breathe. She's just like, my name's April. Don't you hate it? It smells like fabric softener in here. What?
Yeah. Well, her performance is so bad that it's almost a weird anomaly and makes it slightly like it's almost so bad it's interesting. Like her dog that runs away, and it's not her dog. She's like dog sitting, I think, or whatever for the neighbors. Its name's Chocolate, and she pronounces it chocolate.
Yeah.
And she's like, chocolate. Oh, chocolate. It's like, why are you saying it like that?
Why are you saying it like that? Stop saying it like that. It's the Stewie Griffin, Cool Whip. Why are you saying it like that?
Chocolate. And then like, there's these lines that are supposed to be funny, but she says it so strange that she's like, I didn't write down word for word, so I'm paraphrasing, but the dog runs away and she's like, it's the rich people, some rich people's dog. She's like, you don't understand. He tries to fuck skunks and they don't like that. So they spray him and then he gets really turned on. And you're like, what? Like, why is the dog a sex criminal? Why are you breezing past it like it's normal?
Yeah. Again, this is what the Frankie Frico fucking dialogue is like. In that, April is saying insane shit because she said, she says this line, and I had the note as sex criminal poodle as well, but she says this insane shit. And before this, when she's just kind of getting to know Jeff, she says shit like she's talking about, I love animals, but then she goes, I don't count poodles as animals. And Jeff has to do an about face of like, yeah, I love animals too. But then his follow up to that is like, yeah, they're not animals. And he's obviously kind of put off, but he doesn't understand. He's just like, I kind of want to fuck this girl, but she is weird.
Yeah. We should say Jeff wants to pork her. Even though he's like, I'm not sure how old she is. She appears to be like, I'm going to say 20, and he could be 12, but we're not really sure. He could also be 18, Yeah. He's, but they go hunting for the dog. He learns from her that, the person who lived in the house before was murdered. So that's like, it's been a secret up to that point. They find the dog dead and they're like, he's like, looks like a heart attack. He just really diagnoses it early. I thought that was a brash diagnosis.
By a teenager.
There's a zombie. Yeah, they don't notice.
Doogie Howser veterinarian.
Yeah. They don't notice the zombie standing 5 feet from them at this point. Jeff is psychotic because she's worried. They find the dog dead and she's worried she's going to get in trouble by these people who are the dog's owners. And Jeff immediately whips up a psychotic story about how a guy threw a ball to the dog and the dog choked on the ball. So he's like, so all we have to do is basically it reads like an excuse for him to shove something down a dead dog's throat.
Yeah. It's just like, excuse for him to mutilate an animal.
Yeah. So it works though, but then April blames it on Jeff and she's like, I'll make it up to you. So now she's going to fuck Jeff, I guess now. I don't know. But then there's also this is the type of movie that gets, a cult following because it has subplots and little details that never pay off and don't need to be there and serve no purpose. That April's dad is banging the big booby Latina maid. It's like, yep. Why? It's just it's just world
doesn't
building.
Play in anything.
It's just world building, I guess.
It's just lore for no reason.
Yeah. And it's prominently they focus quite a bit on the dad banging the maid, but it does not play into the story at all. Anyway, they plug in the TV, and now it's zombie dog fuckers from Mars or whatever it was called is on, and Jeff starts rolling a doober, and he finds the Sexy Lady channel, and she immediately pops out and and is going to try to fuck him, and he's like thinks his weed is laced or something, right? So now this big booby blonde lady is trying to blow him, but then bails back into the TV, and he's obviously bummed about that. And then she gets her throat slit by this old weirdo that calls himself the Garbage Man, and is basically like, cut it out, don't bang the TV lady, it's not real. And explains a little bit about the video dead and who the video dead are, which are, they are generally zombies, but not always. And they're essentially like some sort of entities from, I guess, another world or dimension or something that want to be alive, but are like jealous or like to pretend that they're alive, but they're not, and they don't even know what it is to be alive, but they can kill you, but you can't really kill them because they're not technically alive unless you do some very specific gremlin rules type things to them, like lock them in a confined area. And the only person that is the holder of any type of knowledge here is Cowboy Daniels, but he actually doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
No, that's why he was sending it to the Institute.
Yeah, he's unhinged. So anyway, he does say, like, you got to lock the TV in the basement and you got to put a mirror up in front of it, which seems to be pretty easy to do, but somehow nobody can accomplish this. He wakes up and does what they told him to, but it's already like smoking and shit's getting wild at this point. So he's trying to tape it up. A ghoul hand ends up grabbing him. He like slices it off and blood squirting everywhere. He does manage to cover the screen, but like a hand is out, I guess. And blood is running out of the dial. So like shit's already kind of hit the fan a little bit here. He takes the hand, like tries to jam it down the garbage disposal. There's this really weird stilted line where Zoe comes in, it's like, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you mean, what am I doing? And like he delivers every line with the same inflection.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just a line. It's a total back and forth of a shot, reverse shot. And it's a badly edited shot, reverse shot, because it's all letting the lines complete every time. Like you're supposed to either lead or let the next audio cue come in a little sooner before you see the image, whatever it is. Yeah. But this is straight. It's called boxcar editing in digital editing. But it's just straight back and forth. And everything he answers is with a question, and it's with the same inflection. We're like, what do you mean? What am I doing? What are you doing? What do you think I'm doing?
Yeah, it feels like a call and response at church. Like you're reading the Psalms and you're doing like one of those call and response things. And he's like, and eventually he's like, that's what I am. I'm a strange person. Yeah. It's like, no shit, Jeff. You fucking are, dude. So April's dad doesn't give a shit that she's leaving for school because he's too busy, poking the hot Latina maid upstairs. And then like a dozen zombies descend on April's house as soon as she leaves for school. One is a bride. One is like Billy Idol, I think, mixed with like a little bit of David Bowie. There's just a lot of personality in these zombies. They think blenders are funny. Like they laugh. It's the only laughing zombies I can really recall outside of maybe Shaun of the Dead. But love, like they just have a lot more personality. I think that's one of the things that's so attractive to people is they joke, like they stick corpses in the washing machine and think that's funny. They're always like doing bits for each other. It's kind of fun.
That was such a flashback when he jams her in the washing machine, and then the washing machine has the drainage pipe into the basin. Yeah. And that's just like that. I don't know. That's such a like an early 80s, 90s thing that I don't think anybody under 25 has ever experienced. But I don't know why. Because I had friends who had that set up in their basement. Yeah. Of like, oh yeah, I got this drainage pipe and the drainage got to go down the hole. And it's like, what a weird thing we did back then. Oh yeah. Why didn't the washing machine just drain?
My kids don't have any fucking idea about any. I mean, like the idea of when they see a phone, like in the like a regular wall phone in a movie, they're like, what the fuck? Like it's wild.
What is that for? Why would you have that?
They don't understand phones where you can't, like phone calls where you can't see somebody. They're confused why they can't see somebody on the phone. And I remember the first time I did like a Zoom on, or like a Skype probably on my phone, I almost shit my pants, you know? So they don't, the zombies don't like to see themselves in the mirror because it like, I don't know, it bothers them. Who fucking cares? Mm-hmm. The zombies come in, just choke the shit out of the big booby Latina nurse. She really gets a raw into the deal. Lot of good practical effects here. The one zombie, she sticks an iron into its head, and then the iron is like in its head the whole movie, which I thought was kind of fun.
Yeah.
They eventually go after the dad. They get the neighbors. The neighbor woman, I think, is the one who gets stuffed in the laundry machine. Mm-hmm. Because her husband gets his head just spun around, which is kind of fun. They're very strong, these zombies, we should say. The Walking Dead, we don't call them, they're not technically zombies. They are the video dead. They're a different thing.
The video dead. They have different rules. Mm-hmm. I do love as the bride zombie comes into the house after stuffing the lady, and the guy's just sitting on the couch and he's reading his paper, and just his first instinct is, Jesus, honey, you stink. And he doesn't he doesn't take the paper down or anything. It's just an immediate, oh Lord, you stink.
He's like, when was the last time you took a shower?
Yeah. Just out of nowhere telling your wife, just like not even a concern, like no sense of tact or anything. Just like,
yo, you
hey,
smelly bitch.
Yeah, you stink.
So Jeff, April comes home, finds all the carnage. Jeff hears a bunch of sirens and somehow immediately knows it involves April, and sprints into an active crime scene and like says he's going to save her or something. I don't know. So basically April just comes to live with Jeff and Zoe at this point. Cause her dad and big booby Latina nurse got murdered. So, So Cowboy Daniel shows back up and they decide to hear him out because like shit's hitting the fan. So they're like, well, might as well hear him out. Obviously ends up being a good decision because they got I was very tickled with myself. I wrote they have a bad case of VD. Video.
Oh God.
I was tickled with myself. Cowboy Daniels explains, basically as the house is getting attacked, what we need to do, we got to go get a bunch of mirrors, blah, 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 all this shit. So they also have like a group nightmare. At this point, I think I'm not really sure where they're all like imagining what's happening. I don't know. Doesn't really matter that much.
Zoe having a nightmare about,
but then like
just getting murdered.
Yeah, it is. It's primarily Zoe's nightmare, but doesn't like Jeff allude to something when they wake up about Zoe's nightmare? I don't know. I didn't write down enough. I didn't write down enough details, but she does wake up and aggressively brushes her teeth, like really, really hard until she bleeds, which was a fun scene to shoot. Just to pop in there. Like she's so nervous. She's going to aggressively brush her teeth till her gums bleed. But, Billy Idol pops in, steals April. Zoe sees it happen, so she's now like, "Oh, I'm on board. There are definitely video dead here." They collect a bunch of mirrors, for Cowboy Daniels, set it up so they can like kind of have a little base where they might not die. And they basically are like, "Okay, we're gonna like chill here until the morning, and then we're gonna go out and hunt. We're gonna go out and see if we can't deal with them in the morning." Zoe has a dream. Well, this is Zoe's dream about the Billy Idol, like eating her hand or whatever.
Yeah.
But she wakes up and it's morning and Jeff and Cowboy Daniels are going out to get them. They tell Zoe, like, if we're not back in, an hour, if we're not back like an hour before sundown or whatever, 10 minutes before sundown, you got to take my cowboy truck and fuck off, basically. They have a bow and arrow. Jeff has a bow and arrow for some reason. Why don't they have more guns or get more guns? Because guns are pretty effective against the video dead. Yeah. But they decide to use bow and arrows instead. And Jeff sucks at bow and arrows. These are like the easiest to avoid monsters. But they're all of Cowboy Daniel's plans suck ass. Why don't you just go get like a 12 gauge, like a sawed off 12 gauge and like just start blasting them to pieces, set them on fire, do something.
I'll tell you why they didn't, because that would be squibs and that would cost more money. And then you couldn't make this movie for $80,000 and they don't have that kind of money. Instead, what they do have money for is traipsing around the fucking woods for 30 minutes with not much happening.
Yeah, this is definitely the slowest part of the movie. They try to do this whole like funny little gag thing where like Jeff is like trying to stand up to Cowboy Daniels, calling him a shit face, or I forget some dumb insult.
Called him cow shit
because he keeps calling him kid or something. I forget.
Yeah, he's like, come on, boy, let's go hunting. And he's like, don't call me boy. He's like, oh, okay, boy. And he's like, oh, whatever, cow shit. And then that's, your fucking arc. That's your Jeff arc of like him growing up. He's like, I'm not a weirdo anymore. Stop calling me a weirdo.
But he only talks like a fucking little weird kid. So like you just want to give him a wedgie.
Right.
Yeah. So the whole idea of they shoot the dead with bow and arrows or whatever they do to them, you can't kill them, but they think they're dying.
Yeah. You can trick them into thinking they're dying is what it is.
Yes. Pretty interesting concept, I'll say, but they never really deliver on the concept or make it interesting or make it make sense. Jeff is really horny to chop up a zombie with a chainsaw. Like they knock one down and then they're going to chop it up with a chainsaw, which proves to not be an effective way of killing them, but it slows them down. But also just like, again, just shotgun something, you know what I mean? Burn them.
Yeah.
But he's really into, I guess, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is his favorite. So, but he's like one of those annoying fans that's like way too into Michael Myers. Like he doesn't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it's a good movie. He likes it because he wants to chop people up with a chainsaw.
Right.
So he's that type of like kind of toxic horror fan.
Yeah.
Like the people who get way too into Michael Myers and like dress up as Michael Myers and walk around and intimidate women, like that type of horror fan, at the movie theater. That's what Jeff is.
Yes. If Jeff were to survive, he would find himself at comic book conventions doing that and harassing women.
Yeah. He cut him up and there is like mice in his belly, which is kind of cool, I guess. I don't know.
It's an overall cool effect when they cut the zombie up.
Apparently, like they don't really circle back to as much, but like apparently bells ring. There's like a certain type of bell that Cowboy Daniels has that like rings when the video dead are around. They don't explain it well.
I think it was just like basic trapping of like setting up like kind of a tripwire.
Like a tripwire, but he doesn't explain it like that. He explains it like the bells ring when the video dead are around, not just when anything is around.
Yeah.
He makes it sound like they're magic bells.
I know, yeah. Like at one point he shows Jeff, or like Jeff finds like a bunch of shit in Daniels' bag, and like there's like a guerrilla warfare book, and then there's a machete, and then there's the bells. And so like they never do a good establishing scene of like, all right, here's where we gear up and make our stand and we string up the bells, which usually is like tin cans. Bells is, I don't know, a little fruity.
Yeah. It's also like, who just has a nice set of, silver bells out? Did you take that off your sleigh? Like, where the fuck did that come from?
That's not very Cowboy Daniels. What are you doing?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, they do this whole scene where like he uses Jeff as bait, and I don't know. They eventually shoot a bunch of them with bow and arrows. There's like the bride ends up with a chainsaw, makes off with a chainsaw. They go track her down, which is like, you just let her walk off with a chainsaw. Like, you could probably hear her. She couldn't have gotten very far, but they track her down in a silent forest. She has a chainsaw, but she has put down the chainsaw. She gets the jump on Cowboy Daniels, stabs him, and then chases Jeff with the chainsaw. Because Jeff is the slowest teenager on the fucking planet, like running through the woods. He ends up stepping in his own bear trap, or their own bear trap. So now he's extra slow. He also just discovers, actually earlier, Cowboy Daniels just discovers April's corpse and doesn't tell anybody. And we're like, I just think that was a really unceremonious way to like dispatch April's character. You thought she was going to be the love interest and a big character the whole time, and she's just not. Cowboy Daniels just walks into his little hideout shed and is like, there's her corpse.
Aha.
Anyway. Anyway.
Well, I mean, he has no connection to her. What does he give a fuck? So.
That's true, but like, yeah, it's just as an audience, we're like, whoa, wait, she's dead? It's like, it's bizarre. Right. So we then cut to, the VD are reassembling basically at this point. Zoe is, running out of patience back at the house, and all the VD are approaching, but they're slowed down by all the mirrors for a while. They end up getting into the house. Zoe arms herself with kitchen knives, confronts them by taking Cowboy Daniels' advice and trying to act not scared. Because he's like, if you act not scared, they won't be threatening. So kind of an interesting scene, but she does this whole thing where she invites them in for dinner, serves them beanie weenies, and like, like the bride's like holding her head, and she's like, come on in. And she keeps doing this very specific scared laugh smile.
Yeah.
I bet she does it 1,000 fucking times in about a 10-minute sequence. It starts to get a little grating, at least it did for me.
It's a little grating, but more than that, it just like it completely, I don't know, like we get it. Like we get that she's, putting on a brave face, but at the same time, how do the zombies not get it? How do the zombies not read more into it and understand that like, oh yeah, she's faking, get her.
Yeah. I mean, they do eventually, but it takes them way too long. And she's also like got this, she's really milking this concept for all it's worth. If they're so stupid that they don't see through what you're doing, you probably don't have to get them drinks and serve them a whole meal. Like you could probably just be like, let's go down in the basement, y'all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But she's really
lure them in.
Yeah. She's like crocheting them sweaters, and it's like, guys, I think you got them. You've reeled them in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause now they're all sat around the kitchen table, and she has this thing where she's like twice. It's kind of like twice, but she has these awkward interactions with these zombies that you think are like hitting on her and are about to kiss her. Like they're getting sexy with her for some reason. They're like putting their hands on her hands and shit. Yeah, they're like flirting with her, and it's like, okay, well now you've lured them in. They'll follow you anywhere. You don't have to, get them nice cups of tea or whatever. It's like end the dinner party, send them back to hell.
Yeah, eventually she does decide she's going to trap them down in the basement, and with the promise of dancing. Of course, that seems to be something she senses their interest in dancing. And then she takes them that she's like, I have this record player. Let's go to the basement. And then she goes downstairs and this again overcomplicates the plan because they're shambling zombies. Just take them down to the corner and then sprint out and up the steps. But instead, she's got this whole thing of like, oh no, I've forgotten a record to play on the record player. I guess I'll go upstairs. Just wait for me. And just run up the steps. They're not going to catch on. You're going to be able to get up the steps. Yeah. You're not injured or anything. But the funny thing is, as she's like casually trying to go up the steps, still talking to them, one of them picks up a record and is like, the jig is up, which is kind of funny.
You tricked us, you bitch.
Exactly.
The thing I don't love is the rules are they have to be locked in a place that they can't get out of.
Yeah.
But we've seen them kind of break down doors and get out normally. She's just kind of locking them in a regular basement. She doesn't like they're not locked in a box or she doesn't lower them into like if there was like a panic room or a safe at a bank. That's like a cool way to really lock something in. It's just a basement. They could break the door down. I don't believe it.
Would it work? It just begs a lot of questions of like what would have been easier. Like, what if you cut their head off, put their head in a plastic bag, and took it 50 miles from their body? Like, would that do it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know
what counts. I was expecting, because I hadn't seen this in a long time, but I was expecting that they had made a mirror room. And then you lock them in a mirror room, so all they have is to look at themselves and each other, and then they start eating each other in a mirror room. But yeah, I just forgot it was just a fucking regular ass basement next to the TV.
And also, what happens to them? They said they'll eat themselves, but now that they're trapped, one of them starts swelling up and bursts.
Yeah,
and then another one's like they do start eating each other, but then another one seems to get maybe sucked back into the TV. There's just a lot of things happening to them. And we're not really sure if this is just dumb luck or obviously we have some information we don't know. And Cowboy Daniels did not have it figured out. We know that.
No.
We also were like, is Cowboy Daniels, we think he's going to come back, but he does not. He's dead. Is Jeff dead at this point? I forget.
Yeah, Jeff's dead.
Yeah, Jeff's dead at this point. I kind of glossed over. Jeff dies. We're just like, oh, fuck, Jeff's dead. So it's just Zoe at this point. And then, a movie, the movie's playing again on the TV. And then you see the end on the TV movie. And you're like, or is it? Obviously, mom and dad come home and go and visit Zoe. And she's now in like a mental institution. And she's not doing great. And they could not give a fuck less. They're just like, you think they're coming to visit her, but I mean, they are, but they're also just coming to bring her the TV to keep her entertained while they like go out to dinner. You know what I mean? It's just, it feels like they're not really letting their one kid is dead, the other kid in a mental institution really affect their social life that much. Like they don't give a fuck about these kids.
These kids have been bummers for a long time for them.
Yeah. Like, I guess what would change now? Like they were neglecting them when they were alive. When they neglect them now? But of course, they unknowingly bring the demon TV to the hospital. Oh, they're going to go shopping. That's what they say. And then the TV turns on. And of course, like the zombie situation appears to be starting all over again. So that's it. That's the end of the movie.
Yep.
It's a fun movie. I will say I've seen this movie a few times and I want to say this is probably my third watch of this movie. But I still didn't remember how it ends because the movie just kind of wears out its welcome for me.
Yeah.
It really peaks in the first like 10 minutes, but there are still some fun scenes later on, but it's just like by the time it ends, we don't really care what's happening.
Yeah. Like they set up an interesting kind of lore with the zombies, making them have personalities and they have rules to interacting with them.
Yeah.
But they don't pay off correctly. The way you dispatch them doesn't come out in a clever way. So, because we spend all that time traipsing around in the woods just to do nothing. Like everything they do in the woods is washed away because all that happens is Jeff and Cowboy get fucking killed, and they discover April's body. So like none of that means anything. And then they come back to Zoe, and Zoe has a moment where she does the one thing that nobody tried, which is be nice to them. Okay, kind of interesting. But then, like you said, at the very end, it doesn't pay off well because you have one zombie that's head is just exploding, which a cool effect, but doesn't play into anything. And, you know, they're just in a basement. That doesn't mean anything. They just open the fucking door. Like, they've been wandering around a neighborhood, breaking into people's homes. Why the fuck would a door stop them? You have to make the real ending, like, actually cool. And like, oh yeah, fuck. She really beat them. She stuck them in a mirror room and made them insane like Superman 2.
She tries to say that like a mirror, like there was a mirror on the door, but they had knocked mirrors off the exterior of the house already. Right. So that wasn't going to do it.
Nope.
Here's what I do like about this movie. One, it keeps you guessing because you have no fucking idea what's going to happen. Like when April's corpse is just laying there tore up, you're like, oh, goddamn. And then Jeff dies. And it's just a lot of surprising things. And it's not because it's innovative. It's because it's poorly written. But it still has kind of the same effect, which is like, whoa, we don't know. Anything could happen, which I love a movie where it just feels like anything could happen. So I will say that's definitely a positive. And I also want to reiterate that scene that I mentioned, the visual of in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the zombie coming up from the TV laying on its back is one of my favorite single frames in horror history. I love that image. It's so cool. It's a fucking weird glowing TV with fucking smoke and a dang zombie head. Like, it's just such a fucking cool image. And what if you put a supercut to any song, and I've created it myself with that image in it, I'm going to get geeked up. I'm going to love it. I'm going to share. I just love that image. I love the zombie designs. I love they have some personality. And like I said, they had a potential to have some really interesting things that happen as a result of the unique set of rules. And they do a good job of setting up that like the video dead are different than zombies. Like this isn't a virus. This is a weird supernatural occult thing. So you're like, this sounds awesome, but it just never really coalesces.
Yeah. I was thinking about it. There's a really crass way to do a remake of this film. And because it's the video dead and because it's people who, you know, like if they're on TV, the assumption is that they lived at one time. Yeah. And so the crass way to remake this is to use CGI and AI to put in people who are dead and then like bring them back to life as the zombies. And like, so they appear as themselves on the TV, but then like when they leave the TV, you can have like a real actor in makeup.
Sure.
And like, I just want to put that out into the world because I think if I say it and somebody tries to do something that crass and disgusting, I can sue them and then make it not happen.
Hey, there you go. Like, just say you're setting your own bear trap here.
Exactly.
I will say, as much as I poo-poo remakes because there's so many of them and so many of them suck ass, this is a movie that does feel like it's begging for a remake and to flesh out some of that stuff that was left us wanting a little bit in this movie. So I could see somebody doing a cool job with that and doing it in a pretty low budget style. I don't know, this movie does not have the fan base to go out and get any type of really significant big budget type of remake. I'm not talking a big fucking Blumhouse remake or something, but I could absolutely see some like small indie filmmaker trying to remake this.
Oh yeah, I mean the same way like we're getting a Street Trash sequel / remake. you know, right now, and it's still being done on a very small budget. But like, even a $3 million video dead, it would still could be way more complete and way more, you know, fleshed out properly and have more gags and have more zombies than, you know, the current $80,000. Like, when you remember that they did all this for $80,000, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That's, you know, why things don't quite make complete sense all the time, because they probably had to rush a lot of bullshit and maybe lost footage and lost shooting days, you know, or who knows what else happened. But for what they got a film that stands the test of time. So
it does, and it has a loyal fan base out there. All right, that was the video dead from 1987. We're going to be going on a 4-hour episode here if we don't move forward. So we have 2 hours of absolute fucking nonsense to talk about here next.
It's not nonsense. It
is absolute fucking nonsense. The story is nonsensical in the very literal sense of the phrase.
It's not nonsensical. You just didn't pay attention and you didn't read the subtitles, and you're a boner because you don't love the movie the way I love it.
I did read the subtitles. I will say that I did have a hard time paying attention. And it is convoluted as fuck, but it is absolute bonkers. This is like if you took, we were talking about the wing flavor. This is like chocolate chip cookie dough flamin' hot flavored wings. Like this is like
it's all wets. It's all wets.
It's all wets, but also with like chocolate chips on top and like gross wacky shit. All right, let's talk about Premutos, the Fallen Angel from 97. So this is yours, Steve.
Premutos, the Fallen Angel. It is
something about
everything.
The name. The name is just so dramatic for the movie.
Yeah, but it gives you an idea. I mean, it is about Premutos. It's about a fallen angel, and then it's also about zombies and you know, everything else. And there's a vampire lady at one point, but that's just the dream.
There's a lot happening.
So what we see on Tubi, it didn't make sense, didn't line up with the rest of the film. But what's on Tubi is actually a re-released director's cut.
I assumed with the animations just didn't match, right?
Yeah. The animations didn't match, and then that dumb body count thing at the very end was just like something they tacked on, which obviously, like, yeah, it's an impressive body count, but you know what? Don't draw attention to it. Just let us enjoy it. Don't be like, oh, we're so hardcore. We killed 39 people. It's like,
it was obnoxious and it didn't match. So I assumed that's I didn't look into it, but it was so disjointed. It felt like that's definitely what happened. Yeah.
But if you just chop off that animation at the beginning and then chop off the credits at the end, it's fine. I'm assuming that's the majority of what the film is.
Dude, the 5-minute exposition dump.
Yeah, because we don't need it.
No, you don't need it.
Yeah, because you get the same stuff generally through everything else that happens in the film. So the setup to the film is there is this ancient demon. He is the original fallen angel, the original, even before Lucifer. And every now and then he comes on back and he starts some shit. And he started shit in Egypt. He started shit as Genghis Khan. He's starting shit in World War II. He started shit in Japan. And we get to see it all happen all. And the first 5 minutes of that animation is just the exposition of all of that, which we don't need because we do see it happen later in the film anyways.
It's also like a really shitty, like quick time animation too.
Yeah.
It's not like cool creep show animation.
No, I had to look it up and I was like, when was this like extended edition released? Apparently it came out on DVD in 2021, which feels... God. Yeah,
I would have expected like 2006 from that animation, maybe.
Yeah, it looks like a very Newgrounds animation is what we're looking at. So I don't know. I'm not taking that into effect. I don't give a shit about that. I want to start where the film really starts, and that's back in they started in India of all places. I'm not sure why, but we're giving these scenes of, just war and people being chopped apart and people being put on pikes. And that's where, Premutos is like unleashed hell upon all these people. And then there's one final hero, and he comes in, he, says, Premutos, you may not live. And he kills him. But all of the fucking gore in this opening scene is just absolutely batshit insane.
Yeah.
And
the thing is too, the freaking, like, obviously this was added later too. It keeps covering it up with fucking giant oversized credits.
Yeah. There's giant oversized credits that keep covering up a lot of the action, and it sucks. We still just get like a lot of the really good effects though, of like it reminds me of the opening to Wishmaster.
I could see that. Yeah, I did.
If you remember how like just like how insane all that stuff going on inside the temple was, like we get a lot of that because like there's a body being torn apart. There's like just, there's decapitated heads around. And then like there's a skeleton that is like sucking its own guts into itself and has lightning around it. And then it stands up and is holding two heads in its hands. And it's like, holy
there's
fuck,
also
what
like
is this movie?
There's also like a really funny cross-eyed corpse.
Well, that comes later.
Oh, we're not there yet? Okay.
No, we're still in India. But after, the demon stands up and is like covered in blood, his dick is out, and he's holding, these two severed heads. Like he gets killed, and then that's when you get the title screen, Premutos, and it's like, fuck yes, I'm all in.
Yeah, we get some early dick, real early.
Yeah.
It was, listen, started fast. It was very promising early on, I will say.
Mm-hmm. Hey, it just sets the table. It lets you know everything you're going to see. Severed heads, blood, dick, skeleton. It's all there.
Yeah. But it's like, you're going to get it, but you're also going to get it in a, kind of like that scene from Matilda with the chocolate cake and the little kid. You're going to get it till you cannot take any more of it. They're going to beat you to death with that thing that you're like, oh, cool. And then they're going to beat you to death with it.
I didn't feel such a way.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. We flash forward to 1942, and we're on the outskirts of Germany, and the voiceover is telling us, there's this guy Rudolph, and he's an outsider, and he's the last maintainer of the evil scrolls, of the evil knowledge of resurrection. Right. So we get.
He just got done managing a Hertz rent-a-car, like right before this.
Yes, he is also a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're told about this lore, and he has it's basically just like a little Frankenstein story encased in this movie, because he is looking for the secrets of resurrection. He has figured them out. But the villagers don't care for it. So the villagers storm his laboratory, and they find that he just has like a basement full of corpses. And this is where we get the cross-eyed zombie head that is just like stuck in a wall.
It's really funny. I think we see it a couple times because I remember laughing a couple times at it.
Yeah, we see it a couple times because one of the villagers pulls out a Polaroid in 1942 and says, "Hey, that's my father," and then looks at the cross-eyed zombie head. But like again, it's full of like a lot of cool imagery. There's like a skinned, hung upside down skeleton. There's a bunch of other zombies, and the like it's just body parts everywhere. And then they start resurrecting, and they start killing people, and a dude gets his fucking dick bit.
He does get his dick bit. We're early in this movie, and the sensory overload is already underway. We're getting dick bites. We're getting like these are the types of things that if peppered into a well-paced movie, you're like, oh, that was a fun and memorable moment. But when it's assaulting your senses every 5 seconds for 2 hours. It starts to become a lot. I will say that.
I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's because I listen to Cannibal Corpse, and every Cannibal Corpse sounds like the last Cannibal Corpse. Every album sounds like the last album. Every song sounds like the last album. But for a period of time, I can just listen to all that straight, and it's still just the same chug, 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 chug. And I'm going to go, yeah, I'm into it. And they're singing about fucking decapitating people and lowering them in the boiling oil. And I go, it's Cannibal Corpse.
Hey, yeah, we got it. Yeah,
Hey.
I mean, if you're getting into this movie for this, I would equate it to there are other movies that, like, this is certain people's taste. I would describe this movie, and I think about Dead Alive in the same way.
Right.
AKA, yes. I mean, this is German. This is German Dead Alive, in a lot of ways.
It absolutely is. I mean, especially with the way it ends. Like, it basically comes down to Dead Alive in the ending. Dead Alive and heavily influenced by Evil Dead too, which we've talked about. There's a whole like subgenre of movies that just other countries tried to make, some kid in Germany or some kid in, Korea or whatever saw the Evil Dead and was like, I'm going to try to make that. Right. Yeah. The Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell.
Yeah.
Is a direct Evil Dead ripoff, but still has like I think. So, yes, the violence is prevalent consistently through this film, kind of like Dead Alive, and it's the comedy bits that are kind of the peaks and valleys. That's what that's the way I feel about it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But these movies can be, at least what I describe as, they can be exhausting. They can kind of wear you out a little bit, where you're just like, oh my God, more screaming, more. And the ones that do a good job, like you said, have that pacing of the bits. Dead Alive has 100 little funny, gross out bits, right?
Yeah.
Evil Dead, obviously, one of the greatest, and Evil Dead 2 even more so, one of the greatest, physical comedy performances of all time from Bruce Campbell. There's not enough or the quality of comedy to control the ebbs and flows, and it just becomes like, instead of it's not a chocolate fountain that you're drinking chocolate into, it's someone jamming a chocolate hose down your throat and turning it to high, and you're just like, I'm done.
No. Yeah. I think in this first like 20 minutes is pretty well paced, even though it is extreme, because like when the villagers show up to Rudolph's house, and Rudolph like administers his serum to his wife, and she goes into the full exorcist and is like throwing up blood on the walls, and then her head just explodes on the picture of Jesus. That's pretty fucking funny. And then the villagers break in and like set off a Rube Goldberg of killing each other.
Yeah, it's a Tucker versus Dale. It's a Tucker and Dale versus Evil type of kills happening. And at this point, the movie is still very fun. So I don't want to say that I'm worn out at this point. At this point, I'm still having a lot of fun. It's later where it's really getting to me.
Yeah, I think it also just has a bit of like the unfocused nature is also what makes you worn out, because you never get connected to any of the characters you're really supposed to, like. The characters that we find ourselves connected to at the end don't even really play a factor into like the first hour of the film.
Right.
Is like, I think that's the real big drawback. Like, even though we're kind of introduced to them just because we have to be introduced to them, they still don't play a big enough factor, because what the person we follow is this character Matthias, and Matthias is played by the director, and we haven't mentioned the name of the director yet, but his name is Olaf Ittenbach, and Olaf Ittenbach is a bit of a known writer-director. I would probably put him closer to like Germany's Lloyd Kaufman than anything.
Okay.
I was seeing a lot of trauma in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Just again, he's gathering up a bunch of crowds to do just bullshit for no money, and
the car stuff for whatever reason really reminded me of Trauma.
Yeah, like in his early, like, this is a film from 1997, and this is when you can still get away with this kind of shit. He's still working today and still does like special effects and still does like he has a couple films coming out soon, possibly. And he's had a couple films come out in like the past couple years, but they all have, like 3.1, 2.7 on IMDb. Yeah. And just looking at them, they look pretty, hokey and a little bit, sleazy. Yeah. And so I assume he still is, he never matured beyond like the way Lloyd Kaufman like never really matured in the way he makes his films.
Sure.
Lloyd was never interested in being like a money filmmaker. He just wanted to tell wacky stories and be silly and show butts and farts and blood. And so I feel like Olaf also hasn't, progressed beyond that. Like he has a film from 2012 called Legend of Hell, and it's just more zombie shooting. So like he's not.
Yeah, he strikes me as, and later, it becomes even more apparent. He just really likes to make practical effects.
Yep.
And he doesn't want to stop doing it. And it's just like,
right.
I like to, let me just do so much of it. And it's like more must mean better, right? And how many fucking squibs did they, the amount of fake, like the amount of blanks that were fired later on, it became like comical.
Yeah. I mean, the number of heads exploded.
Oh, yeah.
In this film.
I have a quote in my notes at some point that Kate said, because she was like half paying attention, like reading a book on the couch while I'm like, good God, like how much is left in this movie? And she goes, how many heads do they need to explode? Like, I forget. I'll read the quote when it gets it. They're just like, what is too many?
What is too many is a good question. Yeah. But in a world where you almost never get a head explosion, there's something to be said for getting almost a half dozen.
It's more than a half dozen. Jesus Christ.
I think it might be around 7 or 8, but yeah.
Yeah.
Like in a world where we barely ever get one, when you get 7 or 8, it's a real treat and you should appreciate it.
I guess so.
Like I have the addictive personality that sometimes I do think more is more and more and more and more is good.
Well, I just think about a movie, like Maniac or something, right? When we have this iconic head explosion or Scanners, where you get this iconic head explosion. And if there were 50 head explosions in that movie, it would not have the impact that it does,
No, but that's Scanners, and Scanners sets you up differently. Scanners doesn't do Rube Goldberg fucking pickaxe in the eye at the beginning of the film.
Scanners sets you up. Scanners doesn't just like, Scanners is a chicken wing with hot sauce on it. This movie is just a water glass full of sauce.
Yes. Well, it has to be at the end because of all the stuff they did. They have dick biting in the first 20 minutes.
I know. You really shot your wad there,
But they didn't because they fucking blow up heads in the last hour. That's how they fucking expand upon it. They go, oh yeah, we had a bunch of skeletons and blood and stuff at the beginning, but look at what we have at the end. It's what sold me on the movie is because I was thinking about like I mentioned, I was like, oh, maybe I'll do Creep, maybe I'll do Driller Killer, and then I just started looking at some movies and I would pick this one off Tubi, and I just started skimming on the film.
Yeah.
And every time I just clicked on the timeline, something fucking new was happening.
Yeah.
And I go, what? And then I got to the very end, and then that very special thing that happens at the end made me go, oh, okay, this is the movie I'm doing. I don't give a shit.
The end,
people need to know about the movie.
The end is great. I really like that they did one up themselves the end. It's just that they could have cut out 20 minutes of just zombies getting shot point blank in the chest with a 9mm.
Sure.
Because there is 20 minutes of that.
Yeah.
Could be cut and it would have been a lot more fun. Like some of the stuff that made it really interesting is like the weird dad, you know, the weird dad that's inexplicably 5 years older than his son, you know, and like the weird dominatrix sister, you know what I mean? Shit like that. You're like, and like how bad German people are at kissing. This is all stuff that is really entertaining, and a little bit more of that and a little less just close firing 9mm. I'm good. Like it makes such a big difference.
Yeah, that there are some characters in this film, and so let's get into a little bit of the characters and their interactions. So after Rudolph is burned alive. Oh yeah, again another effect. Somebody just gets burned alive in that in Rudolph's home. So like and it's not even Rudolph. It's the mayor. It's the mayor's son, because they're just having a fucking comedy of errors in there. But we flash forward to the present and we meet Matthias, and Matthias is just kind of lays about, young kid. He's supposed to be young. But like you said, him and his father appear to only be 5 years apart in age.
Yeah. And they're both like, I would guess they're 30 and 35. And they're supposed to be like 17 and 35, you know?
Yeah. Matthias and his father, Walter, both, share the same shift at the factory, and they've both been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matthias goes to the dentist. We have a couple gags at the dentist, and that's how we're introduced to him for whatever reason. That's just how it goes. And he comes back home, and on his way back home, he gets flipped over a car, Wayne's World style, because he's looking at his the chick he's into, Sandra. And this is our first setup into like the progression of the film from here, is that Matthias is going to suffer a head injury of some sort, and then he's going to have a flashback to a time where it was really violent and bad and they had zombies.
Well, and not just a head injury, sometimes a testicle injury.
Well, that's a different kind of head.
You can get hit in the nuts so hard that you see a past life.
That's what this film posits, yes.
Yes. But the scenes of him getting hit in the nuts or getting hit by a car or whatever, the soccer scene where he gets blasted in the nuts with the ball, he's playing goalie, and then gets slide tackled directly in the nuts, that's fun. Come on, that's fun.
Yeah. That's just great physical comedy.
And then the doctor at the apparently male gynecologist's office. I don't know. They're like clearly at like stirrups at a gynecologist's office.
Yeah.
But they're doing nut surgery, emergency nut surgery. The doctor is.
I think the doctor just specializes in dick and ball trauma, because
I think you're right.
He's just telling Matthias about his past patient who just had like a bunch of tumors on his prostate and a bunch of pus in his balls. Like as he's operating on him.
Yeah, this is dead alive stuff. Like there are just scenes where it's just about grossing you out 100%. It exists to gross you out. We get some better ones later, but it's like the ear scene, the eating the ear scene and stuff like that. Like,
I mean, even the dentist's office where he's like getting suction and they're supposed to be sucking the blood out of his mouth, but then it backwashes and starts dumping blood into his mouth. That is pure dead alive. Like that is the ear falling into the soup and the soup being bloody now. Like it just reminded me so much of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get introduced to Sandra and we think, oh, this is going to be the love interest and Matthias is going to be our hero. Throughout the rest of the film, like you said, he gets kicked in the balls so hard he goes back to World War II and is a Russian soldier. And so he's living these past lives. And then his balls hurt so bad he goes back and remembers Jesus being crucified on the cross.
Yeah. I mean, just think about the sentence you just said. His balls hurt so bad he goes back to what was it called? A cavalry or whatever, and sees Jesus being crucified because his balls hurt so bad.
Yeah. What a great setup for any part of any film.
Sure.
But we're getting like little clues because, like, you know, as he went back after getting his balls kicked, you know, there's a witch being burned and he also gets blamed for that. And like in that sequence, he gets cut apart, but doesn't actually die. But, you know, like, oh, okay. So what was that about? Perhaps it's tied to the zombies we've already seen. And then when he goes back to Christ and, you know, Mary says she has a way to bring back Jesus and is like using, we come to learn she's using, you know, the Premutos blood and brings back Christ, you know, using the blood of a different fallen angel, which that's a pretty sick lyric in some song out there.
I'm sure. The thing is, like, all of these themes are like way, way too serious for what's actually happening in the movie.
Yeah.
Like the movie could just be called Zombie Dick Blood. You know what I mean?
Right.
But instead it's got all these like crazy historic themes and stuff. It's like, no, just call it Zombie Dick Blood and then just do the things you're doing.
Yeah. That's the other failing is that these flashbacks are all super serious. Like none of them have any kind of the gags or goofs in them. Like the crucifixion scene is played just straight up and down as just
so
like
weirdly straight. The tone is all fucking over the place with this movie too.
Yeah. But like when he comes back, you know, when we come back from the crucifixion scene, we're back at his dad's birthday party. And we're introduced to all these other, you know, goof ass characters who just like, they have nothing to do with what Mateus is going through. But we have, you know, Hugo, who is just like this wimpy guy, his overbearing wife, Edith. We finally get introduced to, like, we've met this character, Tanya, but we don't know why we've met her. She just had this, you know, little scene in a beer garden where she remembered Hugo. And we're like, who the fuck are either of these people? I guess I'll worry about it later.
Yeah. The sexy brunette lady shows up. And for most of the time, I personally had no fucking idea. You knew she was the love interest because she was cute and they're framing her up as like not cartoonish psychos like everybody else. But you're like, who is she and why does Mateus know her? And why is she at the birthday party? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what we come to learn is that this whole group of friends is just all people who met Walter. They know Walter through different things. And we assume that they were all like probably in college together at some point. And they all just know each other from being younger. I'm getting the note from Dan that I have to stop agreeing with you about the flaws in my film. But I would say, Dan, that the ending of my film fucking rules so hard that it doesn't matter what I agree about because my ending is the best ever to ever.
The best ending to ever end?
Yes.
Yeah.
As we're getting into this, you know, birthday party, it becomes the cutaway to what's going on with Mateus. And Mateus is just absolutely losing his shit.
Yeah.
This is like, you know, in the video Dead where April and Jeff are just kind of having whatever fucking arguments and Jeff and Zoe are having awkward brother-sister time while people are getting shoved into washing machines. You know, we're seeing this birthday party play out with terrible, awkward, interactions of like Edith trying to fuck the one friend.
Yeah, Christian, who has the funniest voice dubbed over.
Yeah, his voice is all dubbed because you can read his face and he is not a good actor.
No, No, certainly not.
They had to replace all of his lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hugo is getting run down by his wife. His wife is talking about how small his dick is. Everybody's getting fucking blasted on Weinstephaner.
Yeah. And yeah, well, we'll get to that point. But like they go from 0 to 100. This party, I mean, it's the most German party. They're just, we're going to all crowd around a small table, eat just bread with slices of ham and cheese on it, and just drink until we almost die.
Yeah. The way Hugo goes out that one piece of bread where like he's just gonna run the knife all the way through the piece of bread as he's trying to spread butter on it. It's just so funny.
It's I mean, everyone's cartoon characters for the most part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it's like they are like Roger Rabbit cartoon characters who have been put into the real world and are trying to interact with real world objects, and they're not really sure how to do it.
They have a loose grasp on what things are.
Yeah.
But while they're having a party, Matthias's balls are fucking falling apart and he's dying and becoming the devil because earlier in the film, Walter had dug up both the evil book and the evil serum that Rudolph had buried at the beginning. And now Matthias has spilled it all over his balls. And that's what made his balls hurt so bad he went and saw Christ. But now it's having even worse effects on him. And he is just becoming Hellraiser / Tetsuo the Iron Man.
This scene was I mean, the practical effects are impressive with this, with all the stuff keeps shooting out from inside him or from behind him. I'm not really sure. It's pretty chaotic, but yeah, you're right. I was thinking, I didn't think about the Tetsuo, but it definitely does kind of feel like that a little bit.
Yeah. It's just sick body horror because I don't know where he is before that. He goes into like a kind of hell or future of some sort that is just full of like homeless people banging everywhere.
Yeah.
And then he sees Sandra again, but Sandra is a dang old vampire this time, which is why, my film is exactly like your film, but better because my film had a vampire lady and they were, banging in kind of dirty slums, just like Brooklyn.
Sure.
But mine also has a bunch of other dick trauma, so it's great.
Yeah. Again, 25 minutes too many, unfortunately. And if the big smash bang ending would have came 25 minutes earlier, I would have still had patience. But unfortunately, my patience were fucking gone by the time the ending came.
I think you're just not scheduling your time properly. And, you should have been willing to tuck into a 2-hour movie rather than.
I don't mind tucking in. My movie was 2 hours. It's just,
I know, but that's the thing. You weren't scheduling your time properly. You're like, oh yes, I love my 2-hour Larry Fessenden film where he fucking meanders around New York City doing, surface level drug allegories. We get it. Drinking's bad for you. You lose your friends.
Oh, wait, because this movie is so deep. This is not surface level.
My film isn't trying to be deep. It isn't trying to impress the Brooklyn crowd. My film is for the everyman. It's for every man because it features every man. It features every person.
Every man in Germany. Yeah, in 1997.
Yes, every German alive in 1997 is featured in this film.
I wonder if this was like a wherever the town that they lived in, this was definitely a Night of the Living Dead situation where like everyone knows, or Dawn of the Dead situation for like everyone in Monroeville knows somebody, what I mean, who like was in that movie. This town, I guarantee you everybody knows somebody who was in this movie.
It has to be. Yeah, you could probably walk into this town and literally go to that bar, and probably 5 people that are in that bar today right now were also in this film in that bar scene.
Yeah, you're probably right.
While Matthias has his freak out inside of the hell realm, and then he comes out and does his body horror Tetsuo transformation into the devil Premutos, Hugo does some fucking booger stuff. This was
really funny. I mean, I did laugh at this. Yeah.
Yeah. As we mentioned, Hugo's wife Edith has been trying to fuck the other guest Christian and been running down Hugo's dick the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And Hugo starts doing booger stuff where he pulls out just this nastiest, greenest booger out of his nose and starts rolling it around in his fingers. And his wife is still running her mouth, running him down. And he goes so far as like, I've never seen this technique before, but he puts the booger on the back of his hand so he can more firmly roll it into a ball.
the person whose idea this was in the movie has really thought super hard about this and has done this many times.
Yeah. Yeah. They have definitely got booger technique down.
Mm-hmm.
But after he gets it into the perfect ball, while Edith is running her mouth, he flicks it into her mouth. And it is such a gross out. Again, it's more Dead Alive shit, but it's such a gross out Dead Alive moment. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And she gets up and she starts screaming and is like, starts yelling at him, and then tries to take Christian away and, to go fuck him. Mm-hmm. And he just fucking throws up all over her. Like, it's just one gross out thing to the next, from boogers in the mouth to throwed up on. It is, it's just, it's a glorious bit of, hey, let's be gross out, goof ass comedy.
Flicking a little rolled up, taking all that time and all that build up, and then because you're like, what is he going to do with this booger? And then he flicks it directly in her mouth was pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. I kind of burst that. I blurt laughed at that.
Yeah, I thought, because everybody else who's around the table is also pretty sick of hearing Edith run him down too. Like Walter's not into it. Tanya's not into it. Walter's wife Inga seems, I don't know, ambivalent to it. So I kind of thought he was actually just going to just run the booger around like the rim of her glass and like
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But still flicking it in field goal style is pretty solid too. At this point, Matthias is made his way to the church. And in the church, there's a pervert priest, because of course there is.
Sure.
And the priest has some full-on penetration pornography going.
Yeah, he's just laying down, just jacking off. Yes, the only way I could think to word it in my notes was desperately jacking off.
Yes.
It's a degree of desperation.
We've walked into a time that he only has this 10 to 15 minutes in his life to get this done before somebody comes to his door and bothers him. And he is just desperately going to town, whacking his pud to some of the most graphic pornography I've ever seen in a film that wasn't pornography.
Yeah, it was, and they lingered on it too.
Yeah. So in the basement, Matthias has found all the dead bodies they're storing, waiting for funerals and services. And that's when, the priest has to go investigate. And he's like, oh, you goddamn necrophiles.
Just assumes that. Jumps right to that conclusion.
Right. Just assumes because, well, he probably does himself.
Yeah.
But this is how Premutos is going to build his zombie army. He brings back everybody who's in the basement of the church, and then they kill the priest, and then he takes them all to a local neighborhood bar. And I really like this scene too, because like it's a good setup to a bar. I on the 31 Days of Horror, I wrote about the Gates of Hell. Mm-hmm. The Lucio Fulci movie that's also known City of the Living Dead. Yeah. In that film, there's a lot of bar scenes in that film, but those scenes are between like 4 people. It's like the bartender and 3 locals, and they're all just talking about how like the town is going to hell. Mm-hmm. This bar is completely full. Like you have like a flair bartender who's like doing, flashy drinks. You have the owner who's running around. You have all these people that are inside. And then they introduce a bigger group of people, who are the zombies. And as the zombies are meandering around, kind of the best thing to do on a small budget is you hear the screaming elsewhere in the bar before something else, before you see something on the screen, because like this one lady zombie approaches like this group of 3 guys, and they're just like, "Hey baby, what's going on? What are you trying to do? You trying to grab my dick? What's up with that? Why are you trying to grab my dick?" And you hear screaming elsewhere in the bar, but she grabs his arm and like chomps down on it. It's like, hell yeah, yeah.
Just
and then
bites
this is
it
how you
off, if I recall.
Yeah,
like off.
Yeah, she's just like, off. But yeah, it's such a great way just to set up. And then you have some other, moments of chaos throughout the bar. Like you have people just like getting dragged to the ground, and like it looks like a fucking mosh pit at times with how many people they have just running into each other. It's a great setup for if you're going to do crowds.
The amount of times that I saw performers slip in goo in this movie, or fall in a way that like, wow, they probably hurt themselves, or there's a scene later when, well, it's during the climax kind of scene where, I won't spoil it because we're going to get there, but when they get kind of exploded out of like the shed and some flaming wood flies, and like some of the flaming wood lands on the girl's leg and she like has to kick it off. Like there's a lot of unsafe shooting environments in this movie.
Yeah, that's 100% chance that like she got hurt. She got burned from that.
Yeah.
I mean, even before that though, one of Matthias's flashbacks is like back to, well, I think it's the English Revolution or something, but it's like a war in Scotland where they're all just doing hand-to-hand fucking swords and spears type fighting. Yeah. And so like it's just like they're obviously all untrained. And they're just, fucking falling down, doing dumb shit. It looks like a bad LARP, but they still having a good time. They still got the gore going.
Yeah, someone lost a finger or something, or an eyeball in this movie.
Yeah, somebody got like a pretty bad cut, I bet, for sure, in that scene. And then they do fucking drawn and quarter. That's how you get to the effects of that. You gotta get the drawn quarter effects going. We finally go back to Sandra, who we've lost track of since the beginning of the film, essentially. Like, we thought she was going to be the love interest for Matthias, but a whole bunch of other stuff has happened, so we've forgotten about her. But Matthias shows up with his band of zombies, and Matthias's face is fucking haggard now. He's not really Matthias anymore. He's just like this weird skin monster, which it's a cool effect to set him apart from the other zombies. Yeah. The other zombies are that kind of, the standard gray skin, just looking kind of undead type thing. But Matthias has like, these bug-eyed, no skin. Sometimes he's got some lightning effects going on. And
it's kind of a demon. It kind of reminded me of Demon Wind a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. He has, you could definitely tell he's more demonic than everything else. But yeah, he, we think, oh, is Sandra gonna like appeal to him in any way? Nope. He's gonna just stab her through the chest with a scythe and then rip her head off with his hands.
Immediately. 5 seconds.
Yeah. So it's at this point we pretty much realize, okay, Matthias can't come back from any of this. And Sandra is dead, so now we have to kind of focus on like who are the new people we care about. And the film, has at least peppered in enough stuff with Hugo and Tanya that we kind of care about them and their relationship somewhat, but we haven't seen anything that like initiates any other way. Like we have a pretty protracted sex scene between the two of them, which I think goes on for like 2 to 3 minutes. It's a lot of sex scene.
It's a lot. And listen, you throw in some boobies. She that's great. God, I can't stand watching German people kiss each other. It's bad. It's rigid. They're like, it's strange. The people in this movie are bad at kissing.
They often look like they're competing in that it's almost like thumb wrestling, except for it's the goal is trying to get your set of lips around the other set of lips and trap them.
Yeah, it does look a bit aggressive in that way. But to me, it looked like they're really worried about biting each other. So they're really trying to cover their teeth up with their lips, like really thoroughly.
Yeah, that too.
It's weird. Like it's almost like watching turtles kiss each other. Like, rah, rah, rah.
Which turtles do not kiss. So
yeah, no, nor
turtles
should they.
hit it. Turtles hit it from the back and leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of another sex scene, we cut to Rosina, who is Matthias's sister, and she is in her full bondage gear riding her boyfriend Taco. And this is when that his zombies
name's Taco.
Yeah. Like I don't know what I don't know if that was supposed to just be Taco as in Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Because the subtitles have it as 2 C's.
Yeah, TACCO, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a nickname for something else, but yeah, as Rosina's riding her boyfriend in her full bondage gear, like just zombies come and break down the wall. Like they just run through the shit ass, construction.
Well, it's funny because that moment you see that they just obviously put up like one, layer of sheetrock and just busted through it. But I love that all this insane shit is happening in the house. Otherwise, crazy bondage sex, people getting mauled, Tetsuya the Iron Man shit happening, and no one hears it in the other room. And I'm like, and I made a note of like, wow, the walls must be really thick in this house. And then that happens. So like, nope, they're super thin. It's just weird.
Well, see, Brian, now this is how you got it wrong. The walls inside the house are thick. So the shared, like if there's a shared wall between Rosina and Matthias, of course she's not going to hear Matthias have his Tetsuo breakdown while she's getting fucked. She's not going to hear that. But the walls the zombies come through is an outside wall. So she's... Oh,
of course.
Yeah. It's just bad German construction is all it is. Like, yeah, your outside walls are supposed to be thicker and more insulated, but that one isn't. It's just a bum ass wall. And so that's why they're able to just break down. That's all. It's just...
Gotcha.
I can see how you got confused with that, but yeah, all the inner walls are different.
I think also it's clearly an inside wall they break into. They're in a different room.
Well, then they got in somewhere else through the house. But still, all the walls are thick enough so that, the party goers can't hear the sex, obviously. They've been going at it for a while. Yeah, and they can't hear Matthias. Perhaps, I'm assuming, the walls that they come through, maybe that is the shared wall with Matthias's room, because how else did he get out of the house? True. So he must have broke down the outside wall to his house, then brings all his friends back through.
I am sorry I brought this up. For the record, I am sorry I brought this up.
I'll teach you not to get into construction about things for no reason. You want to nitpick?
I want to apologize.
You want to nitpick? Let's go down. Let's go down a hole.
I want to publicly apologize for bringing up the construction of the house.
You want to nitpick? Let's go down a hole and figure it out. Let's hash this out. Let's figure out what the filmmakers were really getting at.
We got to get to the bottom of this.
But yes, with all the zombies coming through the house, it does finally set off, our final sequence of events. The zombies attack Rosina. They attack her boyfriend. She gets to escape and tries to alert the partygoers. Of course, they're all still fucking hammered drunk. Nobody believes her until a zombie comes in and throws a fucking machete right through her head. Which is fucking sick.
Yeah.
And Walter doesn't seem to be upset at the idea that his daughter just died so much as he's just annoyed people are ruining his birthday party.
Yeah.
Which has been a shit party anyway.
He's more annoyed than anything. Yeah.
He's more annoyed that people interrupted his drinking time and that he can no longer have the just plate of meat that's been sitting in front of him the entire time. So, as we know, Walter is this big soldier. He's into war. He's been in the, you assume he was some sort of, I don't know, not a good soldier. because he's not built like a good soldier. He's not a tier 1 operator. He's one of those guys that probably did like boot camp and then worked in the mess hall and then was released because he fell down some stairs.
Yeah, I took it as like he was a wannabe soldier. Like I almost was not even convinced that he was necessarily ever in the military. It's more like one of those guys who just like buys military memorabilia, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I took it as like he was a guy that like was part of the military on like, if it was compulsory, because I don't know the German, military rules. I don't know if it was like compulsory up to a certain point. It would have made sense like if he was in it during Vietnam or whatever. It's hard to tell because he looks, like he still looks like a kid at times. So
yeah.
But yeah, he goes to fight the zombies and sends everybody off into another room, into a basement, and the basement is his armory where he just has hundreds of guns and hundreds of implements of death. And this is our big standoff. Everybody gets a gun, everybody gets to fight, everybody gets to shoot. Edith pulls a lighter as a gun, which is a good bit.
Yeah.
And then she gets killed. Probably one of the most like Terrifier ass death that is in the film,
where they just like rip her face off.
Yeah, because she gets her head just split apart. But this sends Hugo into action Hugo mode. Yeah, and his nagging evil wife is dead, but he can still save Tanya. And so, like, now we're finally confirmed, like, oh, okay, we're not really following Walter. Walter's wife is dead. Don't care much for her. Rosina's dead. Matthias is dead. All right. It's Hugo and Tanya. That's who we're rooting for now. Let's put all our chips behind them now. But, yeah, we've said it 100 times already. The ending of the film is just in a basement, fighting zombies and shooting off as many squibs as fucking possible. Just squib after squib after squib. Yeah, just shooting down zombies. It's all squibs. Sometimes it's a headshot. A lot of the times it's just shooting directly into the chest and just fucking... It is gruesome. It is often. I can't think of another film off the top of my head that like uses so many squibs, and like you're talking about, like it does get to the point of overusage, but they're also doing bits at the same time, because at one point Hugo picks up a shotgun and he executes a zombie the exact same way that Frank Weller gets it in RoboCop. Like the way Alex Murphy goes down in RoboCop of just getting shotgunned and then having his hand shotgunned off happens to a zombie, but it's still contained within the same scene.
There's a lot of just homage shots in this to every, I mean, they do I think it's Christian gets the Day of the Dead, like he gets the, choke on it basically scene. Right. There are multiple kills and practical effects setups that are direct correlations to Evil Dead. There's that one which I didn't even recognize with RoboCop. It is just like this guy was trying to show his tour de force of every imaginable, like, I'm gonna do more practical effects sequences than anyone has ever done ever. Like, that was what was in his head.
Yeah absolutely. There's the one where Tanya is chopping up the zombie with the axe, and like I couldn't tell. It felt familiar, but I couldn't tell for sure.
Where he's like chopping the foot off, then the shin, like below the knee, and then
because she just she basically chops a zombie up like it's sushi, like a sushi roll. The way she goes up its leg, like it fucking rules as an effect. And I just couldn't remember if that was like a reference or anything, or if he just like really had, he just had it in that one.
I'm not sure. I didn't
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the scene, but I didn't recognize it from something.
Yeah. And finally, they run out of ammo, and it seems like all is lost. And Hugo runs out of the basement, leaving Tanya behind, only to break down the walls with a fucking tank.
Yeah. This is when I was so bored and so annoyed and so ready for this movie to be over. And then the tank showed up and I was back on board.
Hell yeah, brother.
I mean, that's when the tank came in, and the tank is like covered in bricks because like it clearly wasn't a full tank, but they do show like imagery of like the tracks. So I'm like, I don't exactly know if they had a tank or what they had, but they made it look pretty good, obviously.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just kind of like, a half tank that they pushed in, on a cart through a wall. Cause like, they're pretty good about not showing like the back half of it, but there's enough space for Hugo to, sit on the mounted machine gun and, all of that. The tank blows up somebody's head and then, blows away the Matthias demon. And then they're blowing up just like groups of people up against a wall. So they have a wall, and then they have groups of people, and then they fling them on the springboards to do front flips and ignite flash pots behind them. And it's just like, he is doing so fucking much with nothing at this point. Like, where did you just buy all that shit?
It is basically when you put in the like infinite weapons or the tank code on like GTA. Yeah. And just start spamming the entire screen with cannon fire. That's basically what the scene is.
Yeah. And it fucking rules because you don't see it in almost anything else.
Yeah.
No one else just has the balls to say, I'm going to fight the zombies with tank now. And after he just mows down everybody with the tank, you think, okay, finally it's done. But no, it's not. There's a whole bunch of goo coming back together like fucking T-1000, and it turns into Jesus Christ for some reason.
Yeah.
And he has to throw a grenade at Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Not sure why. I don't know that they really explain it. Like I said, I
think they
sensory overload had kicked in for me at this point. So I'm just like, anything could happen. Could have been the Easter Bunny, and I would have been like, sure. All right.
I think because they have the flashbacks to the crucifixion, and they're talking about how Premutos' blood is what brought Christ back. It's kind of just a revisiting of that, of like, Premutos, in his final form, because he does also look like the demon we see at the very beginning of the film when it's India. We don't see his face really, but it still is like a long-haired naked guy. And so that's what we get at the end. And so it's just an illusion that like, oh yeah, the long-haired naked guy is always there. And he just happened to be mistaken for Jesus once. So, yeah. But yeah, they blow him up with a grenade, and that's when that piece of fiery debris lands on top of the woman, and she has to kick it off. But like, you can tell they run the film slower because it's such a good shot. So like it's in slow motion, and you see it on her leg for even longer than it should be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she kicks it off pretty much immediately, but it is it's a quick like scene where you're like, oh shit, like she got the fiery end of that piece of wood on her leg.
Yeah. And then the two of them get run over by the drunk driver from earlier in the film, which is, that's just if you don't want to end it with the happy ending of Dead Alive, then you end it with a silly ending that's also somehow like Dead Alive.
Just slapstick Buster Keaton nonsense at the end where they just get smashed with a car. So listen, it had its moments. Obviously, it was an emotional roller coaster.
Has all the moments.
The sheer I would argue too many moments. The sheer number of practical effects setups is impressive. I would love to know how long it took to make this film. Just the sheer number on its own is impressive. But it, like I said, it becomes desensitizing after a while. And the movie is just, it feels like one of those movies where the guy put so much work, so much effort, so much of this was probably just a tiny crew, if not just him doing this stuff. He could not find it in himself to cut anything. He just was like, I'm going to put it all in there because I worked on, and I can't, it's like me, it was too difficult to cut anything out, but the movie would have benefited from a lot of things getting cut out. Even the whole middle section, it is essentially one guy, which is Matthias, just getting fucked up over and over and over again. It's just like, it's not really a story. It's just like, hey, let's see him get fucked up in this environment. Let's see him get fucked up in this environment. Like I said, it had its moments.
Yeah. I think it does a okay slow reveal with at least some of those flashbacks. I think, and again, this is because we're watching this extended director's cut. I don't think it does better. The original cut is an hour 46. And so you take the 3 minutes, that's that animation.
Yeah.
And that drops us down to an hour 52, which means there's still 6 minutes of other stuff that they added in. I don't know if that's just the credits or what, but a shorter version of this movie is like a real killer of a movie. But I don't know. It's still really enjoyable at 2 hours. Maybe you chop it up into pieces for yourself. I don't care. Maybe it doesn't do as well because you had to fucking read, and reading makes a lot of people tired, especially people with ADHD. Maybe that was part of the problem.
I mean, I watch a lot of foreign horror. I don't mind the reading if it is helping you. But honestly, if I didn't read any of the dialogue, I don't feel like it would have changed my experience that much. Because like you're not real. I mean, I may be exaggerating a little bit, but like we're not really. You could pretty much pick up the little bit of plot that's there without knowing any of the dialogue. You know what I mean?
But how could you know Jesus was evil?
Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not a big reveal. It's not like a thing where I'm like, wow, that changed the movie for me.
You have to know why they blew up Jesus, Brian.
So many zombie squibs. Like at some point you just ask yourself, like, how much of this is for the audience and how much of this is just for you, the filmmaker? Which is fine. That's a decision. But boy, just like 35 minutes too long. And I'm not trying to pick on it because I had fun with it, but I will just be completely honest. I was bored out of my mind for a period of time. Not even bored out of my mind, just like done with it. Just please be over. Please wrap up.
I think you just didn't schedule your time properly.
I need to just sit in silence and not hear gunshots for a minute. No.
Constant gunshots. Again,
I just need screaming and gunshots. Yeah.
As a listener to Cannibal Corpse, screaming and gunshots is nothing. So
I guess so. Yeah. You're more sad. Like I just felt overstimulated. Like I need to go sit. I need to go like do sensory deprivation for a minute.
Brian needed to go to early hours of Walmart where they have no music and half the lights on.
I needed quiet time after this. All right, let's get into the voting on this sumbitch because we are approaching 4 hours, I think, on this episode, which is not unheard of. But yeah. All right. So, do we vote on in the order in which we discuss the movies? Is that the thought?
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we have James here.
Mm-hmm.
Do we let him vote, or do we just kind of not let the patrons? Because we're still doing this. We haven't. I feel like we've only done one patron episode, right?
I'm okay. I mean, I'm okay doing that if James wants to vote.
Yeah, if James wants to vote, I'm okay.
If he's
with
still
it.
hanging in with us.
Yeah, I don't know if the other. I don't know if the other patrons are okay with that, but I don't know. We'll just try it this way.
All right. Let's do it. Let's switch it up. Since this is the rare occurrence where the specific person who chose the movie votes, we'll have him vote, and then we'll have an answer as opposed to sending it off to the social media. So, all right, if we're gonna go in the same order, then that means I get the first vote. I'm sticking with my movie, if that wasn't already apparent. I'll be honest with you, I'm a little torn. I'm trying to think of like the value in these movies, and although I like the Video Dead, it's a little thin. Like I said, I think it peaks a little bit early, but I do love the bonkers performances of like Jeff and Zoe and April. Mm-hmm. Even though they're bad in a fun and interesting way at times. Yeah. And I have no doubt that your movie has that too, but it's harder to pick up on because of the language, right? We're not seeing it, you know. Yeah. It's hard. It's harder to assess really specific things about performances when it's not, you know, you don't speak the language.
Yeah, like we can only pick up on Christian because he's obviously overdubbed. Yeah. We can pick up on Edith because she just never shuts up and is like annoying. And Matthias is a good example of that because his balls are always hurting. So we get all those, you know, stick out to me as like, you know, like goofy performances.
Yeah. Agreed. Video Dead's a little, like I said, a little thin, and yours is a little like overblown. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there for me. Honestly, the one thing I will say, I'm gonna actually go with the Video Dead because of honestly the thing that breaks the tie, because it's extremely close for me. And that one image, I don't think there's any image or memorable scene in your movie that beats that one super memorable scene for me in the Video Dead of the head coming up out of the TV. And I know it's just one instance, but I do believe it's that close, and that's going to be my tiebreaker.
Okay. All right. Well, we can go to James then and find out, like, we assume James and the patrons are sticking with the Video Dead as their representative. Mm-hmm. So, James, if you wanted offer up your second vote, which of my film or Brian's film would you take? Now, this might be interesting because James is from New York. So there's a good chance he might just go habit out of a Homer situation.
Perhaps.
But I hope he just appreciates a tank, you know?
Just a tank.
Just a good old tank blowing heads up. Jesus Christ getting blown up.
I will be honest. I was surprised that a bazooka did not come out, because I feel like that era is so like bazooka was such an easy, not easy, but like maybe overly predictable pick. Maybe that would have been too easy. But I feel like, you know, when you're a kid in 1997 and somebody's saying, well, you're playing army guy out in the yard. It's like, oh, I'm going to shoot. I shot you with this. So I shot you with that. Well, I have a bazooka. That was like the end all be all, is the bazooka.
So James is admitting he hasn't actually seen either movie yet.
Okay,
ours.
Fair enough.
But he's going to go off what we've said on the podcast, and he is taking Premutos, the fallen angel, because it has a tank in it. He didn't say that part, but that's what I say.
Paraphrasing.
I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
So that means it's going to go to dumbass Instagram anyway.
Yeah.
because I don't have the same affinity for the Video Dead that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And Habit is just like a better made film.
Sure.
So like, obviously I'm sticking with Premutos because that shit rules all overall. It is just a compilation film of all the best things to ever happen in horror. Filmed on 16 millimeter and thrown in the German language. And that just makes it the greatest compilation ever. So I stick with that. But as a second film, like Habit is a better film just overall. Video Dead is like, it's like you said, it's thin and flimsy. And I don't have the same affinity for it that you do. It's all right. I'll watch it again. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
But Habit is just a better movie. So it goes to Instagram.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that means we're going to wait for a winner anyway. So this week, if you care to, go out on the Instagrams, on the Twitters, and you can vote for which movie you want to take home the son of a bitchin' championship strap for the month. And then whoever ultimately takes it home will to the victor go the spoils. We'll have all the rights and privileges of the champ, which entails a punishment film for the remaining two. So we will all share in that punishment, depending on who takes home that son of a bitchin' championship strap. So that's the plan, guys. That's the plan, boys and ghouls. Go to Halloween is Forever at Halloween is Forever on whatever social medias, or type in Halloween is Forever. You find it. Follow us. Check it out in our Instagram stories. We'll do a little poll, or in our Twitter feed, our X feed, and you can contribute to that. All right. A little cliffhanger, boys and ghouls. Anything else, Steve, before we wrap up this November Showdown episode?
I'll say you get an extra vote if you go on Patreon and sign up for Patreon. And James, probably get ready with a punishment film because neither of our films have name recognition.
That is probably true. I was just thinking that. So, and if you have some suggestions, perhaps for James for the punishment episode, throw them our way. Maybe we'll do it like, well, I don't know, tag in the Instagram or something. I don't know. I'm sure he's already got some in his mind. All right. All right. For the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
Fuck you, Brian. And I'm Steve.
All right.
Why don't you ever just pick my film? Sometimes my film is just really good, and it's full of Jesus Christ getting blown up, and it has a Scottish LARP, and it has like a bunch of guts, and it has head explosions. It has 8 head explosions, Brian. And you can't just swallow your pride for your fucking allegory.
It's too many. It's too many. It's too many. It's too much.
Bye. I'm Steve. Bye.